Alright. See, are we live? What's going on? Just click on this and share the video. I take it we're live. Un momento. Right, okay. Just one moment. Almost done. Alright. Alright. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا خشامديد بخير راغله. Bienvenidos a todos, Juan Ying Layth and Swagatam people, Swagatam. Alright, so we is back. The Imam of, somebody's just commented, Aqib Khan, the Imam of controversy. Allah, Chalo, that's a title, at least an Imam of something, huh? So, what's going down, people? What's going down? Alright. What? Whoa, wait a minute. We have not commented since on the elections. We've got Maruf Ahmed just quickly, wait there, saying, let me just block. Trying to say, grow your mustache and beard. How about you get a life? Worried about my beard, god damn it. Trust me, these people have, it's like God's given them more than their fair share to worry about in life. Beginning with a diminished intellect. And these guys are going around worrying about other people's beards. I mean, no mate, that's why you're in the problem you're in. Anyway, so, alright, what's going down, people? What's going down? Alright, so, ¿qué pasa? What's happening, man? What's happening? Right, first of all, people, Imran Khan, Allah, 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 history has been made. History has been made, people. Right. Can you please talk about, right. So, let me just focus on this for a moment. What an amazing time to be alive in. Seriously, history has been made. Imran Khan is a legend. I totally love what he stands for. I love that, the party in that sense. And it's not about, you know, things like, it's basically a socialist group, a socialist party from a grassroots effort that has risen and taken government. That is unheard of anywhere in the entire world almost. Especially in any democratic country, the parties are usually, it just fluctuates between usually the two main rivals or whoever they are in whatever part of the world. For an independent party, and that to a socialist party, to rise and then sweep the floor. Allah, Allah, Allah. Insaf, justice, people. Anti-corruption. And there's hope for Pakistan. And I'm incredibly excited. I think there couldn't be a better person in Pakistan than Imran Khan. So, and you know what's funny is I shared before the elections, the night before, I shared something about the whole thing, saying, you know, mate, I hope he's successful and stuff like this. So people started to comment. So people started to say things like, oh, do you know he did this, this. Oh, do you know he committed this sin? I was like, a bit. Then they said, why does Mufti sweat? I was like, can somebody remind me what he's campaigning for? Is he campaigning for prophethood? Is he trying to appear as a new prophet? For God's sake, the guy is running as a candidate for the Prime Minister. Like, can you just let him do what his job, for God's sake? Oh, but he commit this sin. This is why we as Muslims are in the situation that we're in, people. Right. Dude, he won through utterly corrupt. Haters. Hater log हैं यार, hater log. You know, it's like that. Haters are gonna say it's photoshopped. You know, when you've just got the head on a different, and you're in like a Lamborghini, it's like haters will say it's photoshopped. Yaar, contain the hate, contain it, you know, contain it. So, what's going on, folks? What's going on? Right, those of you, yeah, so I've actually, I'll say an interesting note whilst people are just tuning in, and those of you that have already tuned in, if you click like, click share, and get this out there, right? So, what is interesting is, you see, I've, for a substantial amount of years, been like impressed with Imran Khan and his kind of slogan for justice and anti-corruption. But I've seen even people around me and people in Pakistan and other places where the majority of the people have been so, even though they've respected him, like said, yeah, he's a great cricketer and so on, but they've been so anti him politically to a complete, I've seen that sentiment do a complete 180 turn. And that's amazing. I think somebody should do an analysis on that how do you do that? How do you get the public sentiment within like a decade to completely go from, oh, don't be ridiculous, to everybody just wanting, not everybody, but a lot of people. And I know it's part to do with the fact people are just fed up and they want change. So, alright, love from Somalia. Alright. Right back at you all the way to Somalia. I should actually start, I want to introduce some more welcomes in the beginning in some other languages. So, if you say it any different in Somalia, then let me know, inshallah. So, people, what else is brewing in terms of fitan and fasad? I can see I've got a lot of people wound up. Somebody's actually just said, alright, Waria Ninkan Yusan Kullum Minin. Kullum Minin. I don't know what swear I've just... Now I'm probably getting like edited, and that's going to become a meme in, I don't know, in Somalia now. Where I've probably just swore for all I know. Right, look at this, my shout out. Nimra wants a shout out. Check this out. Shout outs going on, people. Ho kya raha hai? Huh? Aadmi jiye to jiye kaise? What's become of the world, people? What's become of the world? Shout out to my son, Robin's son, Amir. Alright, you're doing it, people, doing it. So, what are some... We'll tackle some questions. In America, we say, sup, mother... people. Alright, did you have any feedback from ex-Muslims? I'm not actually sure, because those of you who haven't watched my people, the twirl, look at the vah 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 vah. But last week's episode was kind of I focused a certain part on responding to criticisms hurled at Islam by non-Muslims. And actually I want to clarify, that's a good thing that you've reminded me. I want to clarify something. You see, during last week's show, I made a statement where I was saying that people, these ex-Muslims, should show a certain amount of respect, and I'm sure many of them do, but I was saying to some people, and it was a request to kind of be a bit respectful. Now, people said to me, well, how come you mock? And I was like, oh damn, they've caught me out. How did I know you were going to catch me out? If I knew you were going to catch me out, I wouldn't have said that. So then I was like, oh yaar. Pakda gaya. So, no, the thing, you see, just to clarify, I want to clarify here. When I was asking for respect, what did I mean? I actually said, if you watch my last week's episode, I actually said, I said clearly that you do have the right to criticize. I believe anyway, because you're not a Muslim, you have the right to criticize Islam. In my understanding, you do if you want to, because you're not Muslim. So I respect that and acknowledge that right. If you were to ridicule, fine, as a Muslim, naturally whatever a person has an inclination to, they will prefer that people don't criticize that, but you can't have it your way. You can't have your cake and eat it and not get fat. It doesn't work like that, does it? So now what I'm trying to say, just to clarify, because some people ask this question, what I was trying to say, and I did say it as well, but I think some people misunderstood it, is if you are going to criticize Islam, even if you're going to ridicule Islam, it's your choice. You're not a Muslim. You may choose to ridicule concepts within Islam. First of all, I clarified about myself. I said I usually mock concepts as opposed to religious figures. I don't usually, as far as I'm aware, not conscientiously, I don't mock. I don't know if I've ever done that, but I mean, generally by principle, I mock kind of concepts. That said, if you are going to criticize or mock or ridicule an Islamic point, I do feel that you have that right to do so, but at least what I was getting upset about was that people were resorting to fabricated stories and then ridiculing Islam based on fabricated stories. That was out of order. That's what I was saying. Okay. Live from Machertenland. Alright, ahlan wa sahlan. No idea where that is, but wherever it is, much love, people. Live from California. Alright. California it just sounds like such a cool place. I agree, intelligent people, comment here, intelligent people don't mock other religious things. I agree, but what I was trying to say is, I also agree that people have a right, I do feel that people, if they don't believe in something, do they have the right to ridicule it or to mock it? I'm not saying they should do that. But do they have the right to do it? Do they have the freedom to do it? I believe that they do have the freedom to do it, in my understanding. But I don't advocate that people should do that or resort to that. But if they did, they have the freedom to do it. But I feel that if they are going to do that, at least make sure the concept or the thing you're going to ridicule is at least authentic and original and correct. It's not like if I make up a story about, let's say, Christianity or Hinduism, and it's not even true, and then I start mocking it and going, like, what on earth am I doing? Because that's a dishonest, that's academic dishonesty, that's just a disservice, that's just wrong on all levels. You always will be welcomed here. Shukran, shukran, shukran. Much appreciated. But when you criticize concepts, then most people will take it that you criticize Islam. Me criticize Islam. Toba, toba, toba. Why would I criticize Islam? What I criticize at times are certain concepts that, even if certain Muslim scholars held concepts, but it doesn't make them sacred. It doesn't make... See, not all Islamic rulings have to be sacred. They're just opinions. Like, there's an opinion that... There's opinions of, for example, incest in Islam. As in, when I say in Islam, I mean some Muslim scholars in the past have said if you had children that were not born from wedlock, it was permissible to marry them. Which I think is disgusting, stupid, and I would just call stupid, stupid. Okay, I wouldn't criticize the scholar that said it, but I would criticize that opinion as just stupid. And I think there's no harm in doing that. We shouldn't kind of get all defensive as in like, oh my God, anything a Muslim scholar has said, you can't criticize. But then if that's the case, then I too am a Muslim scholar. So Apun is also a Muslim scholar. So in that case, I too qualify by that license that you can't criticize anything I'm doing. Right, so the point is, as I was saying, so people have said things like stupid things in the past, you know, like, and people say things, like there's a fatwa of a scholar, or what if the Kaaba got up and started flying around everywhere, and started like kind of dazzling you? Should you change your direction in the prayer towards the Kaaba and follow the Kaaba, or should you just continue to pray in the direction? That's like, what are you smoking? I mean, what is your... What's your special potion, man? What are you on? And you get ridiculous stuff like, oh, if a guy was starving, he could just... he could... I don't know why I'm laughing. He could just kill and eat his wife. What an absurd statement. And that's not in a euphemism sense. It's not a euphemism there. You're saying you could actually kill and eat it. What a stupid statement. And so you get sometimes stupid statements being said by people, by intelligent people. So even great people can say sometimes things that are not so great. And there's no harm in calling that out and saying that you're a great person, but this one not nice, you know. This one bit stupid. Anyway, so people, what else has been going on? Right, so I guess your wife is halal for you, right? Well, I guess she is. Cha. You meant as a general statement. Right, so what else? What's the question? Why not stream in YouTube? Yeah, I should do it. I should do it at some point. I should variate, you know, have some variety, you know. Thoughts of ex-Muslim video on 2 missing salah. What? Al-Khafd. Al-Khal. Once part of the Quran. No. Okay. Right, now, what they're referring to is some people have raised the question that there were some companions, an extreme minority, some companion. One, I mean, it's generally narrated from one, I think from Ibn Mas'ud, but there may be like one odd other case similar to this, where these companions thought a particular dua, like Allahumma inna nasta'inuka wa nastaghfiruka, wa, you know, the famous dua al-Qunut. This was part of the Quran. Now, why did they think that? First of all, we're not 100% sure that they did think that. Because a lot of these narrations, sometimes to do with some Sahaba thought this about the Quran and some Sahaba thought that about the Quran, are actually not reliable at all. But put that aside, let's go with for a moment, let's just ride with it, people. Let's say it was a companion did think that. Why did they think that? Well, first of all, this is a short dua, and you get in certain hadith and certain teachings, you understand that the Prophet sometimes taught, because this was a part of salah as well for certain people, or dua al-qunut, it's the dua recited within the qunut, that the Prophet taught people certain things in certain manners, as though when he would teach them a short surah of the Quran. So is it possible that if a particular dua carried a certain style that resembled the Quran, Quranic kind of rhetoric, Quranic style, that one odd person may have thought, amidst the whole Quran, maybe that was a part of it as well? It's possible, but that doesn't bring a kind of doubt to the Quran. It's not that, because it's in essence a short dua that has a rhythmic style to it, the way the Quran does. And because the Prophet taught it to them, as other companions said, he taught us dua al-qunut the way he would teach us Quran. So some companion thought, oh, that may also be part of the Quran. That's nothing so it's not like oh my God, the world's collapsing down on us or anything. Even if it is true, that's not something to cast any doubt or anything like this. Somebody's asking for views on alcohol. What? What are these views? There's views there's like a bird's eye view, then there's like that view. Then there's like, वाह क्या view है यार. What views are you on about, Hamza? Put the bottle down. No, I don't know what these other views, I don't know what you mean by that actually. So, what's going down? What's going down? Can you pray in front of something that has a face? Like an imam that has as opposed to an imam that has no face. He's just like he's like, guess who definitely doesn't have to do niqab? Right, well, yes, of course you can pray in front of, like if there's photographs, or if there's cartoon characters, or you got logos, your salah is fine. This is something, although we did grow up as kids thinking that you can't pray like that, but that's not true. Salam Mufti, what are your thoughts on countries such as Egypt banning Salafi literature by individuals such as Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab? Al-Wahhab! Alright, so Ibn Taymiyyah, Sheikh Ibn Baz, Uthaymeen, is this the best way to remove extremism from our... Right, now that's... You see, I don't like censorship. You know, I'm all for kind of freedoms. Freedoms, yeah. I'm a liberal kind of... Liberal in that sense. Not liberal... Why do I look liberal? I meant liberal in loving liberty. Libertad. That's what I'm talking about. So, the question is, would I advocate banning books? I don't really advocate banning books, per se. I'm not really down with that. I mean, governments do it and stuff like this, that's their decision. Because I think when you ban something as well, you create a more, like a fascination about it. So you create an interest. And people then want it. But I think people like the government ought to, rather than just ban, let's say, Ibn Taymiyyah or Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab or the Salafi kind of literature, what I think they ought to do is spend some goddamn money And how about create online platforms like decent, like how about give Al-Azhar a decent website, for God's sake, where they actually can spread and disseminate some of that balanced knowledge throughout the world. It's the most, the most ancient that we have today, center of higher learning throughout the world, Al-Azhar, that is continuously still running today, and yet it doesn't even have a decent website where you can find opinions. I mean, what on earth is going on? So why not invest your energies and your efforts in trying to promote a balanced, healthy understanding of Islam? Is ISIS misquoting Ibn Taymiyyah's fatwa on the Mongols? Which fatwa are we talking about? Go to Al-Azhar and tell them to update. Okay. What, right now you want me to... Can you explain about music? I've explained this so many times. Just watch my clips. The hadith about ma'azif, that a time will come when people will make these things halal. Like, for example, alcohol and adultery and ma'azif, entertainment. This hadith isn't even sahih. Bukhari blags it. Like, I'm not just joking. Like, check the chain. The chain isn't even connected. It isn't even connected. Imam Bukhari doesn't even say he heard from the person. So that's the first problem there and then. Why is Imam Bukhari using a chain that he himself can see is not connected? What happened to his high standard? I will only put things in this book that are totally perfect. What happened to that standard? So why use a hadith that has a... Ibn Hazm said this is a fabricated hadith. This is... He was one of the first people to catch out Imam Bukhari. He said, you tried it. He said, why did you try it with that chain? Because that chain of transmission isn't even connected. So, right. So, what's going on? What's going on? If you could be any animal, what would you be? What are these games? What games are these people playing? What's happened to the younger generation? What kind of... May I ask, Hamad, how you doing? How you doing? If there's any outlay for a headstone on a grave. Right. Mustache. First of all, there's no thing as a like a tombstone. These things are not. Tombstone isn't necessarily Islamic, but it's not something. I don't think Islam is against tombstones either. Islam doesn't want people worshipping graves because Islam abhors superstition. And the irony is people have turned religion, and including Islam, into superstition. Right, so... Sorry, just trying to read these questions. So, I hope that... so people, as far as tombstones are concerned, you can have them. You can have kind of like some writing and stuff. There's no prohibition in Islam for things like that. Mustache that go beyond the lips are haram. Behave. These things about, look, mustache or beard or stuff like this, these things are just etiquettes. They're just etiquette, so they're not actually like haram. Because remember the standard people. You're saying haram is something I believe which if you do, God ought to punish. He ought to. This is where we forget our role, there's role reversal, and we start telling God what he ought to be doing. So God ought to be punishing somebody. We believe this is what people the definition of haram. ما يستحق العقاب. It deserves punishment. What over a mustache? Behave. The questions that matter. Are male piercings permissible? Yes, they are. Male piercings are permissible. Huh? I mean, there's no... Look, like, I take it you're talking about an earring or something like this. Piercings in general are not like something, in my understanding, which is haram, because you couldn't say it's unless you were going with the arguments, like some Shafi'iyah have gone with the argument that it's to cause harm to the body and therefore it's haram. But then they would have to be consistent, and they are. So they say even women can't have any piercings. But if you're going to say women can have them, then men can't have them, why this discrepancy, you know? How can you, this one gender inequality, you know? So it is permissible. And many people in the time of the Salaf used to, many young boys would often have earrings. Imam Malik's own son wore an earring. And Imam Malik discusses the ruling of young boys wearing earrings of gold. And the interesting thing is, he says that the parents for the boys shouldn't get them something for golden. But he doesn't say that the earrings were wrong. He just says that they shouldn't be gold for boys. Salam, is there any sharh and tahqiq of the risala of Lil Malik? Look at that, Lil Malik. Young Malik. Lil Malik, as though he's some rapper. I like it, I like it. So Ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani is the Maliki don and legend who passes away in the late 300 Hijri. So about 1,000 years ago, over 1,000 years ago. Now he has a book called a risala, the kind of like the letter or the message, and there's many tahqiqat. In fact, there's so many in my previous kind of shows. I've gone through some of the new books I've bought that have been that have recently come into kind of the commentaries on it. There's several over there. They're a bit out, so I can't just reach them, unfortunately. Otherwise I would go through them now. But there's so many kind of commentaries. Some recent, you've got quite a few tahqiqat. If you go to Najib Way, their website, on they're like a kind of editing team under Ustad Najib Way, Ahmed Najib is his name. But he has a team which kind of, they dedicate themselves to Maliki scripts. So they've come out with quite a few amazing kind of products. So inshallah, do check those out. Is the prayer valid if I pray with shorts above the knee? Is the prayer valid? Yes, it is valid. I take it you're praying at home and you're not the imam of a masjid. You turn up and the imam sahib's there in his boxer shorts. Imam sahib's like, acha. That would be a bit interesting, wouldn't it? So, you see, would the prayer be valid? Yes, the prayer would be valid because, first of all, most of the madhabs, especially most of the madhabs believe, most of the schools of law, especially the Maliki school, the understanding is the only thing to be covered is the kind of private parts. And things like the thighs are just part of the extended aura, like etiquettes, like you ought to cover them. But if part of them isn't covered, it's not, you know, it's not something that's so... And then there's the opinion of certain Iraqi or Baghdadi kind of Malikiya, and this opinion I'm actually inclined to as well, of the Malikiya, and that's like legends like Qadi Ismail, who was a Don people. He really brought to life the school of Medina in Iraq in his day and age. He's a few generations after. He's from the teachers of people like Imam Bukhari and stuff like this, that kind of era. So he's a few generations just after Imam Malik. But Qadi Ismail, he kind of infused life into that region of the Middle East for the school of Medina and really brought it to life. But his opinion was that, and his fatwa, that covering yourself is an independent ruling to Salah. So Salah is a separate ruling, you can pray, and covering is a separate ruling. So technically, even if a person prayed naked, not that you should. You know, I read this book once. It was actually a book written by some Salafis about, it was against Sufis, but it was a small booklet. But it was they were extracts from a book called, I think, Tabaqatus Awliya or something like this, one of these books. So they had stories in there, and this was snippets from there. And it was a call to kind of ban or to renounce that book. And it was saying, look at the stuff in there, like you're calling these people awliya, and look at their stories. So it said, like, one of the I don't know who, I can't remember who it was, but one of the people in that, whose biography is in this book of awliya, it said from his karamat and from his kind of miracles is that he would often give the khutbah, he would give the sermon naked. That's from his miracles. Allah. And from his, and the way it was worded, it would say, and from his karamat radiyallahu an. May Allah be pleased with him, that he kana yakhtubu uryanan. He would deliver the sermon naked. That was his I don't know if that's just made up, but apparently it's in that book, and so they had this booklet kind of catch just to say, what on earth is, why have you guys not kind of renounced this book? Anyway, so that's coming back to this question. So if a person technically prayed uncovered, the salah would still be valid, but that would be a separate matter in itself, that why were you not covered? So that's a separate issue. Hence, if you remember a while back, there was this viral clip of some girl praying poolside, and it was all over social media, and she was like in just some swimwear, I think just like a bikini or something like this, or she was just, and she was praying by the pool. So there's this clip that was viral, and all Muslims, so somebody from afar was kind of recorded a clip and said, oh, like, look at this girl kind of like, or this woman praying at the side of the pool dressed like that. So Muslims were all kind of, what the hell, I strike down upon thee with great vengeance, and you know, and it was like so. And at the time I made when I was asked about this, I said, look, although that isn't the Islamic etiquette, but people should just leave people alone. And I said that, look, for example, because all these people were saying her salah is invalid, what's the point of praying? And I actually said that, well, actually, according to, like, the school of Medina, Maliki Madad, the salah would be fine, according to people like Qadi Ismail. So you guys don't, so my whole point was that you don't even know the Islam you're trying to preach. Like, you've not actually read it, because if you read up, you would know that many scholars actually said that salah would be valid, and that's a separate matter, that why is the person dressed the way they are. So yeah, so why are, Hina has asked, why are people so judgmental? They really are judgmental, and the worst part is religious people, unfortunately, are very religious people are the worst kind of it's shocking actually how judgmental religious people are, because you think, like, if you found God, you ought to be kind of all at peace, and or at least have some peace and contentment, and therefore not judge people. Have you seen the Instagram post of you with over 300,000 views? Oh, is that one of my naughty? Yeah, unfortunately, people, fortunately or unfortunately, I've become a meme. Welcome to my world, people. I've become a meme. Kun Allah create the heavens and the earth instantly with Kun Fayakun. Allah, this brings me on to a discussion. Allah. So I've heard this thing and seen this clip of Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, and some people trying to really attack Sheikh Hamza about some clips. So I had to watch this brief clip, and it's called, I think it's titled as something about the trial and error of God, or attributing trial and error to God. So basically, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, I think, is responding to, or is discussing, because I've just seen that clip, evolution in general, and he says, well, he says that all the books written by evolutionary biologists are usually devoid of religion, and all the books of religion written on evolution seem to be devoid on evolutionary biology, but I'd love to see some research by somebody who combines both, both the angles. Now, so that's, alhamdulillah, I think that's great, nothing. And then he goes on to say, and this is what the clip, or the people who've posted this clip, are trying to attack him for. He says that, look, what if evolution is true? He says that, look, it doesn't bother me, like it won't shake my iman. If Allah chose, for there to be evolution, that's fine. And then the way he says it in that is like, if Allah chose for creation to come into existence through trial and error, then it won't shake my iman. He says, we learn as human beings through trial and error. So people said, oh my God, he's attributing error to Allah. He's attributing, Muslims, they have their haram. Right, so people are obviously condemning Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, and in the usual judgmental style. So this whole thing, I think, look, people just hate, and they need to kind of chill out and see what is the person saying. He's saying very clearly that if Allah chose for there to be evolution, then what's the big deal? That's what he's saying. And because I think you can't deny evolution. Evolution is a fact now, as far as we're concerned, and the greatest evidence is not fossils, it's DNA. Genetics is the greatest evidence. It's evidence, people. It's not like, this kind of stuff isn't. Now Muslims are just embarrassing themselves by trying to resist this. We are nothing but reminiscent of the church that tried to oppose people like Copernicus and Galileo and these kind of, we're nothing but reminiscent of that. Like, we are just, that's what Muslims are doing now, and in a few generations to come, or decades to come, or maybe, I don't know, Muslims that will come much after us will only just look back at us like, man, they were seriously they were seriously special needs when it came to, they would just think like, damn, they'll just hang their, drop their head in shame and think Muslims are so embarrassing. Yeah. Can we believe humans evolved? Yes, we can believe. Why can't we believe that? I've said before that the Muslim discussion on evolution varies. It goes from, some people believe in, like the Christian, suddenly everything appeared, right? Or sorry, in 6 days everything appeared. So they believe in that kind of Christian way of things. And general Muslims don't believe that. I don't think they do. Allahu A'lam what they actually believe, but my understanding is they don't, but they're just not sure. And then certain Muslims believe that there was evolution all the way except Adam wasn't evolved, he was just created. And then some Muslims believe Adam evolved too, like people like Dr. Abdul Sabur Shaheen and other scholars have written this in their books, and they've shown evidences from the Quran, and all of them have got evidences from the Quran. So it's no real big deal. This kind of stuff doesn't negate any. Our understanding is Adam, and we are taught that you are the children of Adam. How Adam came about isn't something that's really a matter of faith. Like Allah wasn't trying to say, okay, this is how I created Adam, right, you're going to get a test on this. That's just silly. That kind of... right. Why are there so many Muslims having misinformation about a lot of stuff? You see, this is a huge problem, and it's because we are our greatest enemies. In fact, you know, I was listening to a one of the books I'm going through by what's the author's name is Holloway. It's a history of religion, and he has an amazing statement in there. And I've come towards the end of the book now, and he says that in essence, religion is a much greater enemy of God than atheism. And he say, and then he kind of expands on this statement, but it is actually very true that religion and religious people, not all, but many, and religion is a much greater enemy to God than atheists. Because look, atheists say that God doesn't exist. We believe, let's say we believe God does exist. Going by our hypothesis and our belief that God does exist, God would simply just be amused at atheists. Like, because at most, God would just be amused. Like, if somebody said, you don't exist, but you do, you would just be amused at their statement. You wouldn't be angry. It wouldn't enrage you that, oh my God, you think I don't exist. You would find that amusing. If anything, like, whereas religion, let me, inverted commas, institutionalized religion, and some religious people, they present God as a kind of monster, as somebody who's cruel, barbaric, instructs, commands genocide, murder, always wants his certain believers to kill his other believers, and you know, and he wants, and God wants this, and God wants bloodshed, and God wants this. Now if, let's say, going by our hypothesis that God exists, this misrepresentation of God would be something that would enrage God. It would actually, now that's something that God would be enraged at, because these people have misrepresented him, as opposed to saying he didn't exist. Because that wouldn't be an enraging statement, that would just be an amusing one at best. So that is so true. I think you're lagging. Why did Allah destroy a nation for not believing in him? What nation are we talking about? Nation. Right, so let's take some of these other questions. Right, so this Kun Fayakun thing, whilst we're at it, so historically there was a debate amongst Muslim philosophers, including Imam Ghazali and other people, is this the best of all possible worlds? And so Imam Ghazali had said this was the best of all possible worlds. And people found that an incredibly offensive statement, because they said that God, because the truth is Muslims believe that it was a choice for God to create this world. He didn't have to create it. And the way he created it was just up to him. Did it have to be the best of all possible worlds? So it doesn't have to be the best of all possible worlds. Allah could have created it more perfect, but he left it the way he did. And that's a different philosophical debate, as in why and what's the wisdom or objective. Now, Imam Ghazali had said that this was the best. Like, his famous statement was, Laysa fil imkan ahsanu mimma kan. And this statement, that it is not within possibility, divine possibility, to have done something better than what was. And Ibn al-Arabi, the great Maliki legend, not the Sufi Muhyiddin, but Qadi Abu Bakr ibn al-Arabi from Muslim Spain, he is a student of Ghazali, and he writes about this. He's incredibly offended. He says this was utter filth that kind of came from him, from Ghazali. He was really offended with this statement, as were many other Muslims. So this discussion has existed in the past. And you know, this I don't know if you guys are, those of you that are into poetry, there's a poem, there's a line by there's an Urdu poet who's passed away, Jaun Elia, his name is. I think he was a Christian and then he was like an agnostic and didn't really believe, but he has a very unique style, and sometimes it's a bit weird, but some of his things are incredibly profound. So on that topic, he has a line where he says that hasile kun, that the result of kun, like be, and it is hasile kun hai ye jahan-e kharab. That this world that we see, this kind of the disasters and everything, is a result of just the command be, and it was. Hasile kun hai ye jahan-e kharab, bas yehi mumkin tha itni ujlat mein. He said that because that is all that could have been possible if you act in haste. Like, meaning by saying be and it is, it's almost an act of haste. And thus you have the kind of chaos that you do. And I find it really, I mean, it's a kind of like a, you know, like a, in a way, like kind of challenging certain maybe religious concepts, or even one could say if that was the case, he's challenging certain things. But I like that about poets, that they have that kind of courage to kind of sometimes voice their concerns through poetry. And Jaun Elia is an amazing. Recently I've taken a bit of a liking to some of his poems. He has this one. I'll share one with you where he speaks about life, and he says that हालत हाल के सबब हालत हाल ही गई. That हालत हाल is your status quo, and it's like your situation. So he says to fix, like, because we want to fix ourselves, like we'll do things like work and spend all our time trying to make money and do all these things. Why? To fix ourselves so we can enjoy it. So हालत हाल के सबब हालत हाल ही गई. That to fix my situation, my status quo, I actually lost my situation. Like, I lost everything, because like I just wasted that life in this kind of hope, in essence. He says हालत हाल के सबब हालत हाल ही गई, शोक में कुछ नहीं गया, शोक की जिंदगी गई. Allah. Like that, he says that it's not out of choice or passion that I lost everything, but it's that I lost as a consequence the life of passion. Like, it's amazing, wallahi. Like, some of his words are incredibly profound, I have to say. But anyway, that's for those of you that are into poetry. But Jaun Elia came from a Shia family. No, he wasn't. I think he wasn't Muslim. He wasn't Muslim. He was I think he was Christian or something, and then he was an open agnostic. He said he didn't really believe in God and stuff like this. Will all souls feel punishment of the grave? No, that's not necessarily true. I mean, there's, like I said, you know, this thing about the punishment of the grave and stuff like that. In my understanding, if people want to believe in it, they can. But I believe there's that diversity in this kind of thing. You can believe in it, or you don't have to believe. The Quran doesn't, if you just read the Quran, you wouldn't get that understanding that is true. In some hadith, you definitely will get that understanding. Then there's a discussion on, I suppose, some of those hadith, how authentic are they, stuff like that. And then also there's some discussion on, do they even make sense, some of the content of those hadith. Things like, for example, the person who never used to clean up after going to the toilet. and then the question is, well, why is that a punishable offense? Like, if you never, I mean, you could say, well, sure, for prayer he ought to be kind of clean or whatever, but why is that in essence? I mean, that's okay, it's unhygienic, but why is it a punishable kind of like? So it doesn't really make, because generally the scholars don't consider that haram, they just consider that unhygienic. So there's some here and there. The problem is that this became a sectarian discussion. Now anything that gets sectarianized, it goes down the drain. So this became sectarianized, and then Muslim scholars, we've wasted, it's like that poem that halate hal ke sabab halate hali gayi. This is what it is, that we wasted, like, for the preservation of Islam, we wasted Islam. Honestly, we wasted it in sectarianism, in trying to just defend sectarian against this sectarian group, that sectarian, trying to do over that group, trying to just dedicate all our reputations to this group. Wasted. Ummat zaya ho gayi yaar. The ummah got wasted, honestly. The huge, and then what we did was we messed it up for those who came after, because we set everything in stone, all this sectarian creed. Right, so I do obligatory praying during my periods and feel not excluded because I need that closeness to the divine. Amy, Allah, Amy G. Well, we've got some live ijtihad going on. No, I'm only joking. Okay. I mean, generally the understanding the general understanding is it's a gift from God to, and therefore the gift of God is not kind of refused. So when God said, women, you don't need to do that, it's as a gift, not because they're impure. The impure thing is a cultural misrepresentation, and I've said that before. It's as a gift, and a gift isn't usually kind of rejected, but I suppose if you did, you did. I mean, it's not in the Quran. It doesn't address this issue at all about it addresses menstruation, and obviously from a sexual perspective, like sexual intercourse and stuff like that, from hygiene. But it doesn't speak about stuff like should they not pray. And one could argue from that point that, well, if it was such a case, if such was the case, then why did God not highlight it in the Quran? I think that from just an objective point does hold some weight as an argument. That said, the general understanding that I would advise as well is that it's a gift, as in it's like it's a token of just from Allah that you don't have to do that, and therefore I would say you just take that gracefully. But if you did, you did. I don't think in any way, at most you've just prayed. It's not like it's a sin or anything. It's not like Allah's gonna punish you for praying. That would be like the greatest irony. That in the Akhirah the angels go, throw that one in first. Throw that one in the hellfire. That one was a bit too eager to pray. I think this is people are going to be like, what the hell is Mufti on about? So yeah. Right. Well, okay, well, Amy's smiling. Well, there you go. Sense of humor, alhamdulillah. That's good. 5 prayers, but fine. Peace be. Okay, why did Imam Malik not go to the masjid? Did he pray Jummah? No, because if Imam Malik didn't go to the mosque, where was he doing Jummah? In his own, he was hardly going to lead it from the bathtub. Obviously, Jummah is done in the masjid. So, If Imam Malik's not going to the masjid, so he's hardly going to be leading Jummah or praying Jummah. You see, Jummah is really more so a kind of political act. It has both. It's like a mixed ingredient. It has a political aspect. I don't know if political is the right word. I'm using political to mean it has an aspect to do with kind of like leadership of a community and stuff like this from that. I don't know if political is best to describe that word, but so if not, then okay, dismiss the term political. But it has a leadership, as in but an organized, because it's more to do with like the organization of a community. So it has that aspect, and then it has an aspect of worship. And the question is, which one overwhelms the other? Which one preponderates? Allah, Allah, Allah. People, I too know vocabulary. So which one is going to preponderate? Okay, so now in this case, some people said, well, it's going to be worship. Other people, and I think many people do feel as well, it is actually the political side or the other side. So, yeah, so anyway, when it came to Imam Malik, these Imams, by the way, were never Imams in any masjids. Okay, you know, today we speak of all these Imams like Imam Malik, the legend, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam, like we speak, Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal, Imam Bukhari, we speak of all these people. None of these people were Imams in a masjid, and none of these people were ever allowed to lead a Jummah. Like Imam Malik would never have been allowed to lead a Jummah prayer in his life. Why? Because it was state authorized. It was only authorized by the kind of the dynast, by the king or the caliph. He only instructed who could lead Jummah. Jummah was not done in any mosque. It was only usually done in one key masjid, one key mosque. So that's the issue of Jummah aside. As to Imam Malik, he generally did not, I think in the last 25 years of his life, he didn't attend the mosque. And that too, when you think about it, was the Prophet's mosque, but he didn't actually pray in the mosque. And when asked, he said that if he goes, he would just become kind of enraged by what he sees. And then he would want to tell people, like he would just be annoyed, and then he'd have to kind of, and he can't stay silent. So rather than ending up kind of triggering commotion, he'd rather just not go. That was his actual response. So, and that was the Imam Hanifa or Imam Malik had any degree like Mufti or something. What? Huh? No idea what that means. Somebody's posted something in another language. Right, so also, what else did Imam Malik want to beat up those that completely shaved their mustache? Yeah, he did. You see, he said that. It's not that he wanted to beat up. Like, that sounds like, come on. It's not like he was a thug. It's not like Imam Malik, you walk into his dars and he's got somebody in a headlock. Imam Malik's kind of like, where's my, I've got a truncheon lying around here somewhere. Imam Malik's like, come here you. He's like, so it's not like Imam Malik was a thug or something. You see, the thing is that what Imam Malik he was like, he had like at times like a judge-like position. So he would certain times kind of give rulings and deal with people's disputes and stuff like that. And because people would ask him for guidance, he really found this to be disgusting that men would grow beards and shave their mustache, because he felt that it made a mockery out of them. So in one statement, he said that if it was up to him, he would he would have them punished, like sanctioned. But that was like him not really it's not like a literal statement. He was saying it to kind of ridicule the act. In another statement, he said that, he looked at somebody who'd shaved his tash, his mustache, and just had the beard. And he looked at him and he said, if the shaitan himself tried to give you a makeover, he couldn't have done a better job. Wah, Imam Sahib, wah. That's an Imam. So basically that's what he didn't like that, because it gave a funny kind of look. And generally it's only the Hanafi school that recognized that as a religious act. Otherwise all the other schools said, what on earth are you on about? You don't shave the mustache and grow the beard. Like, you can trim, but, or, because it just looks odd, that's all. But the Hanafis kind of keep it. So you do get Hanafis in the Indian subcontinent that will shave off their mustache, but then it kind of accentuates the upper lip in a strange way. But anyway, I'll leave the fashion style thing for these people for another day. What are we dealing with, people? What are we doing? Right, so I've triggered some more drama. It's the same drama. Right, it's the same, just a different day, that's all. Right, this thing on Imam Bukhari, I made a Facebook post and people got upset. Allah, 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 Allah. Right, it triggered this. People are like, why is this guy causing fitan and fasad and corruption? Yeah, I'm just after honesty. My problem, it's a curse. I love honesty. That's the problem. So, why do you have a No, it wasn't actually a truncheon. It's actually a flashlight thing, but which is like a truncheon at the same time. I just had it. It just happened to be here, so I just picked it up. So what I was saying is, I wrote this thing about Imam Bukhari's Sahih Bukhari, and even though I've spoken about it previously, I hadn't written anything, so I wrote it, and people got unnerved. What can we do? Admi jiye to jiye kaise? How is a person, an innocent person like me, supposed to live? People are thinking, innocent? Him innocent? So anyway, so what I had said was that the charge still stands, people, against the book of Sahih Bukhari. And it's not in a wrong way. It's not to attack Imam Bukhari. But the book called Sahih Bukhari cannot be traced back to Imam Bukhari with beyond reasonable doubt. It cannot be. So now that's been the claim. And I've asked people to substantiate, prove it. I'm not the first person to say this, but I've just highlighted it. Now people all kind of freaked out. And I've mentioned, look, one of the key issues begins with, apart from manuscripts, like that's one issue, that we don't have a manuscript of Bukhari until a few hundred, at least a couple of hundred years after him. Put that aside, the person who transmits from Bukhari is also somebody that is an interesting character, because apart from everybody saying he's a nice he's a nice guy, which I'm sure he is. I've got nothing against him. His name is Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Farabri. Or you could say Firabri, or Firabri, or how I tend to say it as Farabri. Some people say as Firabri. But either way, it can be read in either kind of. Now, Farabri, which sounds like February, right? He's an interesting character, because nobody seems to vouch for him in the hadith world, considering that he was a contemporary with Imam Bukhari, even if he was junior to him, but he was a contemporary with the likes of Dhuhali, with the likes of people like Abu Zur'a, of Abu Hatim, of Imam Muslim, of people like Imam Nasa'i, of Imam Tirmidhi, of Ibn Abi Hatim, of considering he's a contemporary of all of these, and then people even that are coming after Ibn Hibban, Dar Qutni, all these great Ibn Khuzaymah, and these other great scholars of hadith that are always commenting on transmitters of hadith, never vouch for him as being a reliable transmitter of hadith. Now, you see, the way hadith literature works, it doesn't work in a criticism sense. It does have criticism in it, but to qualify, it doesn't work that by default you qualify. You don't. So a person who we have no criticism about, he has a poor credit rating in the world of hadith. Let me explain to you how credit rating works. It's very much like our current credit rating system that we have for things like when you want to take out a loan. Because your credit rating, yes, it is impacted by having bad credit. That is true. But even if you've never had bad credit in your life, you will not have a good credit rating unless you've been using credit. So unless you're somebody that actually has credit cards and makes repayments and does things like this, you don't have a positive credit rating. So I remember, and this is a bit irrelevant, just as an example, this old lady once on an interview on Radio 4 explaining the difficulty on why she couldn't get a certain loan because she had a poor credit rating, despite having never defaulted on any payments because she didn't used to use credit. So it's not negative, but it's not being vouched for, which is the problem with credit ratings. Hadith works in the same way. They had that same credit rating system, that to accept you as somebody that could transmit hadith, you had to be vouched for, not just neutral. So it's not enough to say nobody criticized him. You had to vouch for him, and generally at least two people had to vouch for him. So the question is, Farabri, every time I say his name, it's really... But nevertheless, Farabri, the problem with him is nobody vouches for him. Okay, contemporaries aside, what about his juniors? What about them? Why don't they vouch for him? Because to them, he's senior. You could say, well, to his contemporaries, they probably thought, oh, he's just a fresh kid on the block. We're not going to really talk about him. But what about those who come that are junior to him? They ought to look up to him. None of them vouch for him. Nobody. The first person to vouch for him is, 200 years after him? That's very nice, isn't it? How on earth have you vouched for him? Well, and this is the problem. You see, we have to be just. Because look, let's be honest, people, if we saw this same thing in Christianity, we would rip it to pieces. We would say, but the Gospel of Mark was written circa 70 years after Jesus. That's not reliable. Now, why is it we act like that when it comes to the Gospel of Mark, or the Gospels in general may have been written from 80 to 120 years after Jesus, into CE, sorry, not after Jesus, but CE, common or Christian era. Now, yet, so decades after Jesus, this has been written, many decades after. And we then, therefore, reject them. As Muslims, we're highly critical. The question is, why are we not being objective when we have when it's our literature, we have to have the same standards. We can't kind of say, well, no, it's okay. So I'd highlighted one of the key issues is Sahih Bukhari only comes to us through Frabri, who nobody seems to vouch for as a reliable source for hadith. Then the second issue is that from Farabri, his key students that transmit it from him all disagree amongst themselves. And they disagree substantially. And and some people have tried to respond to my argument by trying to say things, and this isn't just my argument, but this argument, by trying to say, oh, and they've tried to play it down. Now, don't do that. This one, not nice, my friend. Because this one, misleading. So, because the truth is, look, when you downplay something, like, if you're doing it on purpose, that's like lying. It is lying in essence. It's just a lesser lie. Because you know that, yes, there were subtle variations like chapter headings and they changed things like that, but there were huge discrepancies. They changed the chains in hadith, they changed the names, they had certain things that were nonsensical statements in some of that didn't even make any sense, like what it doesn't even make any sense. I'll read one out to you as an example. Like, check this out. Right now, un momento, por favor. Let me see. Let's go into my... I brought this up to actually, because some people had asked, and I thought, well, when you're about to... Right, so, see, like, Qawl al-Bukhari. So Qawl al-Bukhari, this is in the Abu Zayd, who's one of the students. He's a rated student, but by the way, his copy doesn't generally reach us, but he's one of the students of Farabri, Abu Zayd al-Marwazi. Now, some of the Andalusian scholars, later scholars, based their thing on him. Now, Abu Zayd al-Marwazi, in his copy, he has Bukhari saying the words, وَقَالَ Abu Darda, and Abu Darda, radiallahu anh, said, fil muri. Now, muri in general is, or muri, is to do with the kind of like, it's like, it can be a kind of like a soup or a food, and it can also similarly be referred to as to a particular camel as well. That's in a certain stage of life and stuff like this. But in this sense, I think it may be referring more so to that soup, okay, that kind of like dish. But whatever it's referring to, it doesn't matter. The point is, قال Abu Darda fil muri. So Abu Darda said regarding the muri. Now listen, the script is ذبح الخمر النينان والشمس. Right, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, that's just like, ذبح is to slaughter, al-khamra is slaughtered the alcohol, an-ninanu. Ninanu isn't even a word as far as I'm aware. I don't even know what is ninan. It's not a word. It's just like a... It's just like washams and the sun. So check this out. He says, وَهَذَا ثَابِتٌ فِي رِوَايَةِ أَبِي زَيْدٍ وَغَيْرِ. So the riwayah of Abu Zayd has this statement, and other than him. But according to Qabisi, like, this was some of those who did rely on Abu Zayd's transmission. He was from Northwest Africa, and some of them in Al-Andalus, like Asili and others. But according to Qabisi, Madrubun alayhi, had crossed this out. But in Asili's text, it was there. بين ذلك تلميذهما المهلب. So Muhallab explains that in his Sahih, and he explains why Qabisi crossed it out, because it didn't make any sense. He said, لم يعرف معناه إذ كان قد تصحف عليه. He says, because this was just tasheef, somebody's just written something, but I don't, like, he doesn't know what they were trying to write, but this is just nonsensical statements. So look, that's in the content. But you have the actual names in the chains that have varied, like complete changes, including hundreds of hadith missing between them, hundreds. So let's be fair, right? let's not downplay the argument. You can try to tackle it. So, on that note, somebody had sent me some of the Saudi scholars, the Islam QA kind of websites. They tried to answer this question. Oh, God. These ads. Yeah. Right, so here's the question. He is asking, this is Sheikh Muhammad Salih Al-Munajjid from the Salafiyah, dealing with this question. He is asking about the original copies of Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, and he's going to answer them. Right. First of all, this argument is not so much just to do with the copies, original copies. I'm not just saying, the argument is not just where is Imam Bukhari's book himself. Because that's not the issue. The issue is Imam Bukhari in the last few years of his life was deemed a heretic by most Muslims. So they considered him, I think unjustly, that was wrong for them to do that, but they did. So they deemed him a heretic, and so nobody used to take hadith from him. So in the last few years of his life, nobody's transmitting hadith from Imam Bukhari. And Imam Bukhari is just kind of like, he's rejected from towns, he becomes an outcast. He tries to go into certain towns and cities, they don't even give him entrance. So this is his life in the last few years of, in his last few years, and it's a tragedy really, because Imam Bukhari himself is a great man. I'm not dissing Imam Bukhari. He's a great man, and I would strongly disagree, and actually I would condemn anybody trying to condemn him as a person, because that's not fair, because he hasn't actually done anything. He's just somebody who struggled in his life and tried to write certain things in his attempt. The question is, his book, is this his book? This is the question. Because if it is, how do we know this is his book? Is it in its entirety? What is the margin of error? Is it 30%, 20%, 40%? How much of it are we uncertain about? And where does the margin of error fall? This is the problem. So I do have a detailed talk about this, by the way. So if you have a feeling that you can listen to it, it's on YouTube. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you haven't already, then what are you waiting for, you infidel? You kafir? Subscribe to my YouTube channel, but I've got one there about, I've got this discussion there about Sahih Bukhari, and I go through all of this. But let's see what Sheikh Salih Al-Munajjid has to say. So he says, one of the most important things of a Muslim who's acquainted with classical legacy is that he should understand that stirring up doubts is easy and is something that anybody could do, right? Even about basic given things and common sense and blah, blah, blah. This is how we deal with these so-called specious arguments. What is it with these Mulvis and these kind of like and their usage of rare words, huh? But anyway, in reality, nothing but illusion, blah, 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 blah. Let's get to the juicy stuff. If the questioner meant original copies, as in manuscripts, what the author wrote, then okay, but that's not what these issues are about, because this is not about Imam Bukhari's copy. This is the copy that Farabri had. So Farabri had several students. His own student, like amongst them, he had people like Al-Mustamli, Abu Ishaq Al-Mustamli, Abu Al-Haytham Al-Kushmayhani, he had Abu Muhammad Al-Sarakhsi, Al-Hamawi, he had people like Abu Ahmed Al-Jurjani, he had people like Ibn Sakan Al-Bazzaz, he had people like... He had quite a few, Ash-Shabawi. He had these students. My point is, what Mustamli says is that we, the students, first of all, he says that the copy that Farabri had was incomplete, and we used to edit it as we go along. We used to move things around and do all of this. if that was the case and they were all copying from his copy, why have they all got different copies? It's one big problem, you know, my friend. This one big problem. So, okay, so he says, I want to get to this. He says, however, Sahih Bukhari was heard by 90,000 men from Imam Bukhari himself, as was stated by his most famous student, Ibn Yusuf al-Farabri. Most famous student, nobody's even vouched for him. This is the kind of fame that nobody wants. Most famous, that, oh yeah, he's that famous that they all forgot to mention him. This reminds me of there's a famous Arabic poem where somebody sarcastically said, he says, كأننا والماء من حولنا قوم جلوس حولهم ماء. Like basically what he's doing is he's saying something and it doesn't mean anything. Like he's saying we are as though like the example of us with this water around us. There was certain like a river around them. He says the example of us and this water around us is like a group of people who are sitting with water around them. So it became like a famous line in Arabic that كأننا والماء من حولنا قوم جلوس حولهم ماء. That it's like you're trying to, you're saying something and it doesn't mean anything. Like what so this whole thing of when people keep saying Farabri is the most famous student of Imam Bukhari, is he? Well, did anybody say this? Oh, later people said it. Oh, that's because Bukhari's book only came to them through him, so he became the most famous student. Like, talk about recreating history. So there must be honesty, people. There must be academic integrity, you know. So these things are important. These things, más importante, you know. You can't like, this is like, you can't really get so, because you see what a lot of these people, what I've read on a lot of these websites is people have started to give Imam Farabri the status as like he was the greatest student of Imam Bukhari, and this is not true at all. At all, it's not true. He was just one student. And this statement, let's go through this statement, by the way. This is Farabri's statement. He says that there were 90,000 students of Imam Bukhari that took from him the book directly. 90,000. And none of them are alive today transmitting it except me. That's like when, you know what me and my mates sometimes call when you're on gup. Gup mode. This is like when, you know, when you want to give a gup. A gup is like slang for, I mean, it's desi slang for like when you're blagging something, like an utter blag. Like you're not even blagging, you just utter blag now. So now this will just be gup. So this is Imam Farabri going on gup mode. That there were 90,000 students, direct students of Imam Bukhari. Nobody is transmitting it today, right? Except me. Like you think, oh, ye kuch zyada phenk diye. Like bring it lower a bit. This is too much. You've blagged it a bit too much here. Even Imam Zahabi on this statement had to kind of apologize and say, sorry guys. He said that he overdid it on this one. This ain't correct. So anyway, Salih al-Munajjid, the Salafi Imam, is using that to say that, wow, this is the status of Farabri. Al-Farabri's narration of Sahih was famous because he lived for a long time. Okay, fair enough, Farabri lived for a long time, but that's not why it was famous. because they were much greater Imams. They were actually great scholars who were students of Imam Bukhari. Like Imam Muslim, who refuses to transmit his book, by the way. Tirmidhi, who refuses to transmit Imam Bukhari's book, by the way. People could say, well, they had their own books and they didn't want to do that. Okay, fine, but there were great other people. Ibrahim ibn Ma'qil al-Nasafi, one of his most senior students of Imam Bukhari, his thing disappears. All of Imam Bukhari's students, this Farabri is a very junior student. He's very young compared to Imam Bukhari. He comes much, he meets Imam Bukhari, but he's very young compared to him, like to his other students. All of Imam Bukhari's other students, they either don't transmit his book, or it seems to disappear within a century. So anyway, he says he heard it from him, and trustworthy people heard it from him. Al-Mustamli heard it from him. And he even transmits here, look, is one of those who says, I copied the book of Bukhari from its original text with Ibn Yusuf, that's Al-Farabri, and I saw that he had not completed it yet. That it's true that even Imam Baji, the Maliki scholar, says that's most likely true. Farabri's copy was incomplete. So somebody said today, look, we have these copies of these people, of Ibn Sakan and these other great scholars, and Ibn Sakan is a great hafidh of hadith. But even Ibn Sakan, the question is this, Ibn Sakan is taking it from Farabri. Ibn Sakan, does he vouch for Farabri? Does he, like, somebody could say, well, why else would he take it from him? Maybe he took it from other people as well, but we don't know, because this copy that reaches us today, the main copy doesn't even come through Ibn Sakan. So people all the way have been kind of patching copies together, and they've been contradicting each other. So look, Ibn Hajar relies on a copy by Al-Harawi, who relies on three key students of Farabri, Al-Mustamli, and As-Sarakhsi, Abu Muhammad As-Sarakhsi, and Al-Kushmayhani. But then Abu Dhar al-Harawi, and there's another famous manuscript known as the Karima manuscript, which is based on Kushmayhani. But then Abu Dhar al-Harawi himself says, by the way, Kushmayhani wasn't even a scholar of hadith. Therefore, he actually deletes and removes a lot of the narrations coming through Kushmayhani. But yet the Karima manuscript solely relies on Kushmayhani. Whereas one person is saying Kushmayhani is not even a person knowledgeable about hadith. And another... So, what is going on? And none of these reach us in their entirety. So what's happened is people have patched things together. So I ask people, look, don't get distracted. If you feel that you can answer these questions, then bring the original copies. Don't kind of... We have patched up copies today, and we should just be honest that that's the truth. Fine. If you want to accept them still, that's fine. And I'm not saying we should not accept Sahih Bukhari. So people have asked me, what are you saying then? Are you saying we should throw Sahih Bukhari away? I'm not saying that. Because there's a lot of valuable things in there. There's a lot of... You could take things that you could corroborate them. You could take a look at language. You could take a look at people. It's part of this heritage. It is a treasure that is part of this heritage. But when we're going to attribute it to the Prophet, we have to be wary. That we have to understand that, look, there's a reasonable chance this is not what the Prophet said. So let's make sure the information we're about to attribute measures up to the three standards. That one, it does not go against reason. Two, it does not go against the Quran or establish Sunnah, because Imam Malik and Abu Hanifa drew a distinction between Hadith and Sunnah. It does not go against the Sunnah, and it does not uproot an Islamic principle. If that be the case, then fine. It's good enough. You can go with it to make rules. But we should be wary about information. So some things you can't actually make rules from. They're just information. Like, oh, the Prophet one day stopped over somewhere and did something. Like, that's not a ruling, that's just information. the problem with information, sometimes it's fine, but sometimes it's got horrendous things in there, like the Prophet married a child. This comes to us through these isolated narrations. Now you think, well, and it contradicts itself within Bukhari on several other, in some narrations, Aisha seems to be much older, not to do with the marriage, but in other things she's talking about, oh yeah, I remember when I was in Mecca and that surah came, I was a girl that I could understand that surah and I could, but to be so, you would have had to have at least been so old. But according to this narration, you would have been 1 year old, or 1 year old or 2 years old. Now, that doesn't make any sense. So, according to another narration in Sahih Bukhari, she was participating in battles when 15, 14-year-olds were being turned back. So she obviously, by that time, must have been much older. Because a 15-year-old boy is still, even if a girl was like 16, taking a 14-year-old boy on a battle would be of more use than taking like a 15-year-old girl even, or 16, and definitely than taking a 10-year-old girl. So it doesn't make any sense, and that's in Sahih Bukhari. So people, we need to kind of look at the whole narrative. And this thing about, I want to add a note here. Some people said, this thing about, since I've mentioned about the Prophet, this hadith about trying to say the Prophet married a child. This is false. It's nonsense. I'm making that very clear. It's nonsense. And I made a comment on my Facebook post because somebody shared something by somebody saying, you should listen to this person. Because, when an academic, I'm just saying, and I have great respect for, so they shared a particular article, or I don't know whether it was an article or a video clip of Dr. Jonathan Brown. Now, I have great respect for Dr. Jonathan Brown. I have messaged him privately at times, and he's messaged me. And I have the utmost respect for him as a person. However, this article or this book or whatever it is, I think he wrote it a long time ago. I don't know if that's his opinion today. I sure hope it isn't. But you see, the point is, just because now you have a person who you feel is presentable, and you're going to say, it's okay to justify child rape or child molestation, child abuse, because so-and-so person in an article may have said, it's fine because people in that day and age did this. First of all, people in that day and age did not used to marry children that young. That did not used to happen. So there's a big difference between saying people in the past did marry, girls did get married when they were 13, when they were 12. That did happen. That may have, I'm not saying, and that did probably happen in a lot of, in many parts of the world. However, they didn't used to marry 6-year-old girls. Like, let's just get that right. They didn't used to do that. So people need to stop saying, they used to marry 6-year-old girls. They didn't used to marry 6-year-old girls. And then to say, it's okay. And I want to highlight an irony that, it's ironic that recently there were these articles on social media where some newspapers trying to say that pedophilia is a sexual orientation. It's not a it's not a sickness or whatever. They were trying to say that it's a sexual attraction to children is an orientation. It was some article being shared on social media, and people are condemning that, and I think rightly so. I would agree that, what the hell, that this kind of and it's not about the academic side in it. The academic side, I think, fine, people can listen to that, but you've got to understand that this is clearly leading to just child abuse, right? So, unflinchingly, I would condemn that because it leads clearly to child abuse. But okay, put that aside for a moment, that article. Muslims were sharing this and saying, oh my God, and they're going, and I would say, I would agree with them in condemning this. They're saying, oh my God. Yet they were the same Muslims, some of these, who are saying, but the Prophet married a 7-year-old. Like, they are the same people who are saying, yeah, but the Prophet married a 9-year-old. Oh my God, but this person saying he's attracted to a 10-year-old is like, is so disgusting. But the Prophet married a 10-year-old. Oh, but no, but it's okay because 10-year-old girls back then looked like 20-year-olds. Wait, what? 10-year-old, 9-year-old girls look like what? Like 20-year-olds. What kind of steroids were they feeding them? Like, what do you think that? What do you think they were feasting on steroids? Of course they weren't. They were malnutritioned, if anything. They were suffering. They weren't living like feasting. What do you mean, like, oh, a 7-year-old girl used to look like an 18, 19-year-old girl? What the hell are you on about? What kind of a stupid response is that? So we need to be clear, and I made this statement that, look, we as Muslims owe it to the Prophet. We as Muslims who believe in Allah and His Messenger owe it to the Prophet to not describe him as a pedophile and to condemn these narrations. So that's what I would say, and I strongly urge that. And I do feel that Muslims have, because of their denomination and their sectarianism, they've given in and compromised the honor of the Prophet. So that's you know, so just to kind of clarify that. So yeah, I think I should move on to some other questions now. People be like, what the hell, this person like you. But it's true. But look, people today, let's face it, people are going to say, well, why are you, condemning, oh, so-and-so scholars haven't condemned this. Well, firstly, we're not responsible for what scholars did. But it's like you would today, like people today, most people in the world today would condemn slavery. It's true. Most people, I hope all people, but there are unfortunately, amongst humanity certain shayateen, as Allah says in the Quran, that, min al-ins, the shayateen, the devils of mankind, that may think differently, but I think most people around the world today would see slavery as an abomination that it is. Now the question is, you see, in the past people looked at things differently, I accept that, but in my understanding, Islam set a trajectory that when mankind would reach that, it would become haram, and hence the Maliki ulama were amongst the first ulama, like some of the great scholars of Timbuktu. It just sounds funny when you say Timbuktu, but it's true. And from Mali and places like this, some of the great Maliki ulama issued fatwa way before slavery was abolished in the Western world, saying that slavery is haram. Right, because the human ethics had reached that stage. So now, you see, because today the world would seem, hopefully, most of the world would see this to be a wrong. Imagine you time traveled and went back to the past. Like, imagine we went back 500 years and you saw a slave. Would you not see in the right of the slave to rise against his master and rebel and just run off? Wouldn't you see that as a right that he has? And I would say, of course. But yet many of those scholars would have written differently. So, you see, my point is, what I'm trying to say, even with these things, you can't use because they just lived in a time where they were part of a system, and they just, because they didn't know any different, they just went with it. Allah is not going to hold us to account with what Ibn Hajar had to say. God has given us an intellect to use. So we need our own reasoning. Right. Let's take some questions, people. Let's take some rapid round questions. Can you shed light on what is considered zina? Zina? Well, zina is like when a guy and a... Zina. Zina means adornment, kind of like to beautify or adornment. Yeah, adornment. Right, are nose rings, earrings considered zina? But what this person means here, I take it, koyes mia. I think what he means is when Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا يُبْدِينَ زِينَتَهُنَّ, that they do not show their zina except to their husbands. Is Allah referring to by zina there like jewelry? No, he's not in general. So when Imam Malik was asked about things like women wearing earrings, or when he was asked about women wearing anklets and stuff like this, is this part of zina? Like, is this something that women ought to not wear, for example? Or women wearing henna and, you know, like, which would be today the equivalent of like nail polish or varnish and nails and all these kind of things. So when Imam Malik was asked this, that, or women wearing necklaces and all this kind of stuff, is this zina that they ought to hide? Imam Malik said no. He said that's just common, like that's standard, like women wear that kind of stuff. So yeah, so okay, let's take some other questions. Somebody, maybe body poisons, what a way you look into hadith. I have no idea what you're saying. Somebody just said Ya Ali Madad, as in question mark. Should we say Ya Ali Madad? Ya Ali Madad means like, is Persian, Farsi and Urdu as well for like help. Okay, so Ya Ali, come and help us. Obviously not. I mean, Muslims generally, we don't believe that anybody can really help us. It's only God. In that sense, like people, spirits don't come and help you. But then, you know what it is, like Muslims, like we're so confused because we all have like double standards in everything. So Muslims generally say like, oh, we believe only God does things. But then many Muslims, like I suppose the Shia would say Ya Ali Madad, that Ali, maybe the spirit of Ali can come and help them, or I don't know if they believe in whether the actual spirit comes or from the unseen he helps them, or I don't know how. But then Muslims, other Muslims will say, oh, but we'll call the Prophet. But then sometimes they won't call the Prophet, they'll call on saints. Abdul Qadir al-Jilani is another famous saint, a patron saint that many people will call on all the time. You know, many Muslims, oh, Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, come and help us. You know, all this kind of just weird, isn't it? Because it's, I think, truly getting rid of superstition is hard. I think it really is. And coming to terms with just one God is difficult, I think. And I think humanity has forever kind of struggled, and even the monotheistic faiths, although they kind of shed and got rid of all the idols and the other gods and kind of went with one God, but over time they ended up just kind of doing what other people were doing, but they just kind of just gave it a new rendition. Like Christians did it with their patron saints, and Saint Andrew for this, and Saint, you know, all these different saints for different things that would grant them. So that's my understanding. Can you read and it will be accepted? I don't know what that means. Can you read? Oh, cranberries, help us. Isn't that just istighatha though? You see, this is it. Justifications. Justifications. This is where we go wrong, where we lose reasoning. Look, don't get me wrong. If you want to do it, do it. It doesn't bother me. But I'm just pointing out inconsistencies, that's all. I'm not going to go mad at people like, oh, this is shirk and you're mushrik and stuff. People do whatever the hell they want. It doesn't bother me. But I'm just highlighting inconsistencies. Like, how can you, on one hand, want to shed superstition, and then on the other hand, endorse superstition? It doesn't make any sense. Princess Chauhan said, read my comment. And then nothing more. Did Umar radiallahu anh take back the bracelets of Kisra? No, he actually, in the narrations I've read, he gave them to Suraqa. Chauhan has said, please, well, if you post your comment, I can read it, for God's sake. Just going on, read my comment. There's no comment there beyond those words. Do women have to cover hair and head? I've highlighted this before, that there is a, especially in recent times, there's some difference of opinion. Generally, most Muslims feel that there's a spectrum of views. Most Muslims believe that women must cover their hair. Okay. Now, some Muslims have felt that no, that's not necessary, it's just modesty. And amongst those of recent times, people like Sheikh Khalid Abu Fadl, you've got Sheikh Allama Javed Ghamidi, and other people as well. So, you know, you've got certain people today. The issue is really, when you look at the evidence in the Quran and Sunnah, there isn't actually anything in the Quran and Sunnah that clearly states a woman has to cover her hair. It simply, you can infer inferential data, but nothing like categorical. Therefore, it led to this discussion. But then there seems to have been a Muslim culture that appeared within maybe a century or two that definitely seems to say that women ought to cover the hair. And then Muslim culture seems to have just persisted in that manner along the way. The verse of the Quran seems to say, well, women should... the verse of the Quran seems to say that women should cover their bosoms with their headcloth. Now the question here is it asking them to wear a headcloth? Those who say, and most people have said yes, why else did God say cover it with the headcloth? Because the verse is clearly not addressing here to start off with. It's talking about them covering their bosom, because mainly women, they would wear like these low-cut necks, and you could see a great amount of cleavage, and as you can imagine, it would distract. It would kind of, the traffic would kind of like go off. Obviously they didn't have cars, but the camels would be crashing. Right, so, you know, you get all these accidents happening by these billboards. People are like, huh? Oh, damn. How am I going to explain this one? Right, so, this is the camel would, so they would have these kind of, you know, there was that meme by that Bacala, what's his name? Bacalu Papito, whatever, that guy, where he says, I crash camel in bridge. I know care. You know, but anyway, the question was about covering their kind of breasts and covering that. So Allah said use the headcloth, the khimar, because they used to wear, generally the Arab women would kind of tie the thing and they would just let it hang and it would be long. So why not pull it forward and you could cover the... Now the question is, does that mandate that they wear a headcloth? This would be the equivalent of me, like if I give you an analogy of saying, let's say if we're walking through dangerous territory, and I said, right, those of you that are wearing a watch, like let's say we have fear of being robbed, and I said, okay, right, anybody with a watch, cover it with your sleeves. Am I also mandating that everybody ought to wear sleeves, or am I simply saying that you should, if you cover it with your sleeves, and if you don't have it, then just hide your watch? What am I saying? Now, the nature of language is that it's ambiguous. So this became the kind of, this is the discussion, the center of discussion. So there isn't anything clear per se that in the Quran that Allah is saying cover your hair, or any categorical hadith that is clearly established. So there are some hadith, but they all have problems with the chains. Now, however, and there's some discussions you see in the early Muslim communities, like in Imam Malik's time, he seems to have some opinions that show that the hair is not as mandatory, like he will say that a woman doesn't need to cover it in front of her kind of servants and slaves. He said she doesn't need to cover it in front of her in-laws. Other scholars said she did, but Imam Malik drew a distinction. They don't put it as part of the core aura. They say it's the extended aura, stuff like this. Now so there's some discussion going on, but then it seems to it seems to have kind of been drowned out quite early on then, and then Muslim culture seems to have stabilized as women do cover the hair, and then that seems to have kind of persisted along the way, and then recently it's been questioned again. So that's why we're getting this all this kind of thing. I would just say, look, all of this is part of the Islamic discourse. That's what I'd say. I mean, it's up to people what they kind of go with in the end. There's no force regarding matters of the deen. La ikraha fi deen. One thing clear is that Islam emphasized modesty as an ideal. So I hope that's of some help. What's more authentic, Bukhari or Muwatta? Unquestionably, the Muwatta of Imam Malik is more authentic. Somebody is saying, what is the deal with Hoopy? Oh, Hudhud. I've answered that before. Point of making so many planets and galaxies with such a large universe. What's the point? Chalo, I'll ask God. Huh? What's the point? Huh? Should I stress it? Should I go like that? Like, or what should I? So, right. So that's the. Obviously, I mean, this is the way the universe has been created. The way the universe expands. This is from the amazing creation of God, I guess. Princess Chauhan. That's 3 times I wrote a big essay now. Well, princess, you can post it again. If not, you see, that's somebody who's definitely living in where the world revolves around you. Well, I've got news for you, princess. The world does not revolve around you. If you don't want to post it, don't post it. Right? So, anyway, let's take some rapid questions and we'll bring this to an end, people. That's, why do you drink with your left hand? Get lost. Right, so reverse camera, for God's sake. She's asking if your prayer is valid if you drank the night before. Yes, prayer is valid. Okay. You know, being drunk, obviously, if you're drunk, you wouldn't be praying at that time. But your prayer is valid. The hadith about 40 days and stuff like that, these things were simply just to discourage people from praying. Oh, sorry, from drinking. It was to kind of like a deterrent. What's your opinion on dawah guys in the UK? I think it's a tragedy. I don't think generally we should be... I've said this before and it upset people. I've said one thing. Somebody asked me, what advice would you give to people giving dawah? I said, stop giving dawah. I honestly believe we shouldn't be giving dawah, like, enough. Bas bahut ho gaya yaar. Had kar di yaar. You know, this is it now. It's too much. We've destroyed. How much more do you want to destroy Islam? Jane dijiye yaar. Let it be, man. Islam seriously doesn't need us. What's your advice? Nikahul Nikahul, I think the person wanted to write Nikahul Misyar, which is like those kind of low commitment marriages, but he wrote Nikahul Mismar, like the nikah to a nail. Huh? Yeah. I've got the nail. What do I do with it? Uh-oh. It's just you and me for till death do us part. That's one way you could truly say that it looks like this marriage is going to be the death of me. Marriage to the nail. In other words, he nailed it. Proper nailed it, man. Alright, Patron. Hamza, how's it going, man? Is it true that you're a fake sheikh? Is it true? Wow, I love the integrity. I'll just ask you, is it true that you're a fake Yeah, yeah, I'm fake. Don't worry about it. What did the Prophet mean with ajwa dates? Yeah, I mean, this thing about ajwa dates, in my understanding, the Prophet, what he meant by that, if we accept that hadith to be sahih, this was simply the Prophet highlighting the kind of strength of some, like if, because the dates was it was a staple diet of the Arabs, and the Prophet saying, oh, if you ate dates, like, it's so good, not even magic could touch you. It's like, it's in that sense. It's not like the Prophet wasn't teaching like religion by saying that. He was saying it, emphasized, like when the Prophet said in a hadith that a home or a house which has dates in it, its occupants or its family inhabitants are never hungry. Now that doesn't mean that's not like a religious statement, like, oh, if I put 3 dates in my house now, 3 pieces of date, oh, I'll never be hungry. That's not what the Prophet meant. He's just trying to say that, whoa, like, if you've got dates at home, like, and you're still looking for food, like, that's just a statement, like saying, whoa, like, you're looking for food and you've got dates. Because, by the way, their dates weren't these kind of small, they had the huge, massive kind of dates as well. But, so when he said, like, oh, if anybody ate 7 of these, let alone other things, magic, poison couldn't even harm that person. That's just it's hyperbole. It's like a hyperbolic kind of exaggerated statement just to kind of praise the food. Yeah, like we could say, oh, if you had biryani at home, how could you be hungry? Allah, Allah. Spices at home, huh? If you had a nail at home, how could you be single? This gives a whole new meaning to screws. Yeah, screwed. Right, so anyway, opinion on khatams. Khatams are like just part of folklore, religion and stuff like that. Did Imam Hassan have 90 wives? I mean, I don't know if he had 90, but the general understanding is that Sayyidina Hassan radiallahu anh married on many occasions. I think some people I think they find that offensive, so they've tried to say that these narrations are unreliable. Some of the narrations may be unreliable. I haven't extensively kind of like researched into that. But you have to remember, in that day and age, marriage had a different social understanding. And it wasn't like when you say marriage, you say relationships. Like today, you might say, well, you've had relationships. And people, they have different outlooks on life. Like to some people, the Arabs generally back then didn't have this till death do us part concept. And people had relations. Some of the companions, like Mughira ibn Shu'bah, they say, well, some narrations say he had at least 1,000 wives during his lifetime. And some say, okay, maybe even the modest narrations say he had 300. Huh? What a guy. That's the kind of person that you, after you say Mughira ibn Shu'bah, you say, radiyallahu an. What a guy, huh? Inspiration. Now, relax. Anybody getting so offended, chill out. Relax, man. Relax. And if you can't get relaxed, then look around your house for a nail. Like marrying 1 a month. I think that's about mut'a. I don't know. Some would even dream of having 1,000. I'm sure they would. Dream of having 1,000. But right, okay, people, any final questions? We can right, I don't think, I'll see if there's any. Does the Quran say to give less to women from ancestral property? No. What do you mean by that? Right, the verse on what the that's like going to be so lengthy that right now we're really just on rapid round, so we've got a 300, one Spartan. I'm just trying to see if there were any questions that come on, let me just quickly Right, okay, I'll just try to see if there's any rapid round. What does the Quran say about, from Marga Attaf, what does the Quran say about forcing their children to wear a hijab? I don't believe that you should force your children to wear hijab. That's my understanding. I believe that Islam, you should bring children up with an understanding, with a value modesty. Okay, that, and then, you know, people will be eager to do things, people will be keen. You know, this force, there's a hadith, an amazing hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he said that a forceful outlook, it never accompanies anything except it ruins it. And rifq, like subtlety and kindness, that it never accompanies something or is never in something except it adorns it. So this is, so that's really the way. If hadith collection are problematic, how can the practice of Medina be traced back to Imam Malik? The practice of Islam is already preserved. The Sunnah was already preserved through fiqh. Fiqh was less susceptible to corruption because people weren't interested in corrupting fiqh, because it wasn't as authoritative as hadith. So therefore fiqh, but fiqh gives a huge diversity as well. Right, I had a question about Islamic ethics and marketing. As a Yusuf is asking, as a marketeer, there are different ways to manipulate people to buy your products. Now, manipulating using cognitive biases, is it permissible? That's a really interesting question. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's really interesting. I think we all do it. It's just the way the world works. But from an ethical perspective, is it really ethical? It's probably not ethical, is it? But I think the world just works like that. You know, like if people are going to promote something, they're going to promote it in a way like, this is the thing, you know. And you're going to manipulate stuff. And I mean, what by manipulation here, I don't understand deception. Deception would be categorically wrong. But manipulation, like where people might kind of use one-sided research, or they might just stress something so people buy into it. And we all do it, but you're right. I don't think it's ethical. What is your opinion on Surah Al-Lahab? Can God curse his own creation? You know, this is interesting because my understanding of Surah Al-Lahab, you know, Tabbat Yada Abi Lahab, that, you know, may Abu Lahab, the one of flame, the one of the one who's kind of doomed, and his spouse as well, you know, the one supporting him as well, like what do they have to avail, like these who just want to gather wealth and gold and amass it. And my understanding is that this verse wasn't specific. This was not really to who we now call Abu Lahab, the uncle of the Prophet. Abu Lahab, the uncle of the Prophet, that was not his name. He got given that name after this. So I think this is kind of reverse engineered, that this surah was just a general surah. Allah wasn't speaking about him per se, although he equally at the time fit the bill. So it's basically if the shoe fits. So because he was like a ripe character at the time that fitted that description, Muslims started to call him Abu Lahab, like they started to call Abu Jahl. But this was not their name. Abu Jahl wasn't called Abu Jahl. Abu Lahab wasn't called Abu Lahab. Now, Abu Lahab meant the one of flame, or the one could argue of gold, because gold has that kind of shine to it and that kind of flame thing to it. And this was about people who are so immersed in the world that they, like the verses are exactly what they are. And those who support them, trying to adorn themselves and trying to prevent the message of the Quran, this is who the surah condemned. But that, yes, as a, you see, it was a template, and yes, it fit the bill with the specific uncle of the Prophet, Abu Lahab, who became known as Abu Lahab later on. So that's my understanding, okay, of that. Now, did Imam Malik ever give a ruling contradicting the Amal? No, not the Amal of Medina in general. What is your response to saying that the Prophet was poisoned? This is ridiculous that the Prophet was poisoned. This is such a... And I want to do a detailed response to this, inshallah, next week. But the Prophet was poisoned and his companion died and he ate from this Jewish woman's house, but his poison lasted. And I saw this ex-Muslim making some kind of a video that was so... It was so poorly made. Contradicting itself ridiculously. Oh, the same poison, kill that person instantaneously, but research shows lead poisoning can take 10 years to kill you. That's why the Prophet took, 3 more years to die, 4 more years to die. But this person, but he ate it and died at the table. And the Prophet died a humiliated. He's saying all these kind of ridiculous things. And then he said all these weird things, and he said, I'm going to give the references, but he never gave them. Is it okay to love you for the sake of Allah more than my parents? Huh? I'm not sure what that question means. Abdul Wahid, Ali. What kind of love is going on here? Are you trying to... is it more than my parents? Yeah, see, people ought to love their parents, but sometimes you could have issues, but then you have like a rational love out of responsibility. I suppose if some people had a very tough kind of relationship with their parents, they may struggle to find an emotional love. I think that's a shame and it's a tragedy, but we can't deny that it's not a reality. In that case, they should have a rational kind of love from a responsibility, if that's possible, inshallah. There's some very long questions. I'm just trying to... is combining salah allowed when traveling for leisure purposes? Yes, that's absolutely fine. You can combine prayers. Right, so okay. Talks about people... Right, alright guys, I think we should wrap this up. Unless there's any last fiery question, I can take that. Other than that, I am sharing snippets on YouTube. If do subscribe, do share, do like. It's like I feel like one of those guys, Allah ke naam pe de de baba. You're like, does the Ark of the Covenant exist today? Well, the Ark of the Covenant. Oh, are we talking about the to do with Moses and the... What do you think about Ahmed Deedat? Ahmed Deedat was a great person, but obviously he was in a different age, and he everything has positives and negatives, and I suppose he did a really good thing, as in he tackled the challenge of his age, but then he also gave rise to a culture from which we're suffering now. This whole kind of, this Zakir Naik kind of like this preaching dawah culture it kind of rose on the back of what he was doing as well. But one could argue that he never did that personally himself, but yeah. But he was a great person I have much respect for. Sulaiman alayhi salam, I'll explain some of the miracles of Sulaiman alayhi salam. I have explained that they're not supernatural, right? So people think that they're all supernatural. They weren't necessarily supernatural. They had natural things going on, natural explanations. Like somebody had asked about Hudhud. Hudhud was not a bird, as many people have said, but rather it was like, if you read the actual verse of the Quran describing Hudhud, and on several occasions it seems very clear that this is a particular person that Sulaiman alayhi salam is addressing. Was it a person of a particular group? Some Mufassirin have said it was a group, like his version of what would be modern day intelligentsia. So his intelligence kind of, and he was upset that they weren't, because his intelligence had to be on point, and he was upset with them. Because if it was a bird, it doesn't make any sense. Like, oh, if the bird, where's the bird? And I'm going to be upset with the bird, and I'm going to slaughter you. And then the bird is coming and saying, and then the bird's reasoning, and the bird's saying, oh, well, I did this and I reasoned. And, birds don't reason. It doesn't work like that. You see, like, what happens is we end up inadvertently making a mockery of the religion. So, if you read it, and all the verses, actually, when they speak of Hudhud, that when he says, فَتَفَقَّدَ الطَّيْرِ, that he couldn't find, and they say he called this group طَيْر, because they were like birds, that they would be like falcon-eyed, that they were the intelligentsia that he had, that he looked for them, and he said that, where is Hudhud? That, if, he said, سَنَنْظُرْ أَصَدَقْتَ أَمْ كُنْتَ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ. Why kadhibeen, using the plural for humans? Like we will look, were you truthful, or were you from this? Or if you look at all of them, he uses plurals that were always to do with humans. Animals take a different plural. Right, guys, I think we're going to wrap that up. Any issues, give me a shout. Facebook, message me, inshallah. Messenger. Both my pages, I've got my public and my general page. I share things from both. Like them, follow them, add them. If you can, my general one you can add. So, and Snapchat, Malm 2014, MALM, which stands for Mufti Abu Layth Al-Maliki. Just a few people have still asked me, what does Malm stand for? And, right guys, YouTube, subscribe. Other than that, take very good care of yourselves, inshallah. And with that, inshallah, I'll leave you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, till next week, much love. Stay blessed. Over and out, people.